one of the things that we talk about a lot is how God prepared us for this relationship through a lifetime of experiences, very separate, very apart from each other. My marriage for 44 years, and I've said to you many times, I'm not the person I was 45 years ago.
I've told people that I've told Robert and I've told others, I feel like I owe a lot to Bobby Wogamuth because she and Robert forged together as two people from very different backgrounds themselves,
right,
a beautiful marriage. I had the privilege of knowing them in the last 10 years of that marriage. But like every couple, they had areas that needed to be, needed heavenly sandpaper, and marriage was true. That for them. And I'm thinking that if we had met when we were in our early 20s, we probably would not have been so obviously a good match for each other. We were really both true. So different. Right. But God used the course of life, circumstances of life, in my case as a single woman, in his case as a married man, to develop faithfulness, to develop the fruit of the Spirit. And so I am really thankful, as is Robert, for the path he had us on, and then in his providence and wisdom and kindness, making us into two people who would be right for each other in this season.
That's really true. The Lord has prepared us for this time where we're going to be together as husband and wife. So honestly, I feel like I'm a spectator to what God is doing. I know that I'm on the field. I know that the Lord has asked us to play this side by side. But in so many ways, I'm watching this unfold. And
that's a really sweet place to be. And again, I've said this over and over again for years, but I've said it more during these months. I love living under providence. And the providence of God, meaning that he sees, it's pro-video, God sees ahead, not just ahead, he sees the whole picture of all of eternity. And he goes before us to make provision for what he and he alone knows is the future. And so to be able to trust that in eternity past, God wrote every day, every chapter, every verse, every stanza of our lives for his glory, and including both of us coming to know Jesus, both of us growing up in our earliest years in Pennsylvania.
That's right.
A few years apart, and coming to know Jesus, both of us at the age of 4. But God's providence, his looking ahead, his putting things into our lives, bringing people into our lives. You think if any one of those things had been different parents, different birthplace, different choices, different, how different the trajectory of your life would be. But it wasn't different. It's what it was. And it was all under God's sovereignty, his provision, and his orchestration. And what God had for me in those years was different than what God had for Robert for those decades. But then how he weaves together this tapestry. He causes my brother and Robert to intersect paths back when my brother was in college, and caused Henry Blackaby to say to me, "You need an agent, and Robert Wogamuth is the one that I recommend." And I'm going, all of these things are not happenstance. They're not chance. They're not random.
Right.
They're orchestrated by God. And what that says to me, and what it has said to us in this relationship, is that God can be trusted. God can be trusted. He's writing the script. He's written the script. And all we're trying to do is listen and follow and obey. And so that means for years ahead, we don't know what the future will hold for us. We're both, this is true no matter what age you marry, but certainly at our age, we know that there's a strong likelihood that there will be health issues sooner than for most couples who have a chance to love each other for 40 or 50 years before they get there. And humanly speaking, statistically, I'm likely to be a widow someday. I mean, we haven't actually had this conversation, but you just think, and you know that the future is unknown to us. Robert didn't anticipate that he would be caring for a wife with cancer for 2.5 years with his first wife. And until that diagnosis came, he didn't know. But God knew. And God knew where the grace was going to come from to walk through those years. God knew where his provision was going to come for Robert after that marriage. God knew that that marriage was not on my radar in the least. at all. Zero, zip, zilch, my whole life.
I believe you.
You believe that?
Yeah, I do.
But God knew that. But he also knew that in order to make me more like Jesus, and in order to fulfill his ultimate purpose for my life, to glorify him in the greatest way possible, that was going to mean a season of marriage. I had no idea. And if he'd said to me, you need to get married, I would, like, what do I do? Where do I go? But right. God knew, God knows. And that's why we can trust him with what we don't know, which is most everything. But in every change, he faithful will remain. We sing that, be still my soul. Be still my soul. That's really, our souls can be still. They can be at rest. They can be at peace because we know who's in charge.
That's right. Be still my soul. The Lord is at thy side.